So as we begin our final segment of our 28-day trip, Barcelona to Rome, our first day out was a day at sea. So we enjoyed this beautiful weather, had a little martinis, a little port wine at the end of dinner. We boarded our tour bus to the cathedral in Barcelona and got some beautiful views along the way of the city. The weather was spectacular. Barcelona has a lot of different architectural sites to see. They have the cable car near the port, but as we continued on, our first stop was going to be the museum. And when we arrived there, we had some free time to walk around, take some pictures. The view of the city was absolutely spectacular, as you can see. And we enjoyed those views. We didn't actually go in the museum. We wandered around the grounds on the outside, just took in the views. Once we got the lay of the land, we headed back past the museum, back to the tour bus, and headed back down to the city where we would then visit the cathedral that we were headed to, which is the Sagrada Familia. And here we arrived at the cathedral. All the cathedrals in Europe seem to be under some type of construction or cleaning, so there's always scaffolding around them. This particular cathedral is absolutely spectacular. The light coming in through the stained glass windows just gave it an unreal beauty inside. As you can see, this is all natural light that came through. But we finished up at the cathedral and we headed on down past the supermarket and then took in some more sights before we called it a day, back to the ship. Beautiful sunset, and said goodbye to Barcelona and headed to Gibraltar. Had a beautiful evening to sail, lots of sunshine. We grabbed a few cocktails, had a show that evening. We also enjoyed some entertainment in the piazza. Nice little moonlit night to call it a day. Then arriving in Gibraltar the next day, once again we're back at Gibraltar. A beautiful sunrise. We got off early so to walk around the square, see some of the sights there as we have a tour later on scheduled. But it wasn't real crowded in the morning, so we thought we'd get off and enjoy a few sights walking around in the square area. We did stop by a little pastriere, get a little sweets, and then we continued on, of course, to find our favorite little wine spot, had a glass of wine before boarding the bus for our tour. This was a panoramic tour of Gibraltar, so basically you ride in a little bus around the outskirts of Gibraltar. We went to the Europa Point, which is the closest point to Africa. There is Africa there in the distance, and of course so there's a mosque there, and we had to do the Kiss Me at the end of Europe Point. Got back on board the bus, saw a few more sights as we traveled around the island, and then wound up where we were headed to our gin experience. We had the opportunity to taste, I believe it was around 7 different gins there. We did purchase some. They were delicious to bring home. And so we learned a lot about the history of gin. Finished up with the gin cocktail, headed back to the ship to say goodbye to Gibraltar once again, and headed out for sea. Once again, we had a beautiful evening to sail to, sitting down at dinner, said goodbye to Gibraltar. Had, of course, some wine with dinner, and then some martinis after dinner to say goodbye to Gibraltar with the most absolutely gorgeous sunset I've ever seen. Then we had a beautiful moonlit night to get some sleep and welcome Marseille the next day. We boarded our bus to the province, and we took a walking tour while there. Took us to the downtown area, some fountains, of course, always some fruit markets along the way, beautiful architecture. And once we were in the city square, we had a little bit of free time to wander around, look at a few things, do a little bit of shopping. While in the city square, we came across the market that had some of the most luscious looking fruits and vegetables we've ever seen. But we continued on to the cathedral. We were only there for a short period of time. And then we proceeded past this area where it had all kinds of flavored nuts. We purchased a bunch of those to go and grabbed a little chocolate croissant at the pastier and continued on our journey. As we continued on our bus tour through the city, we got to see various sites along the way, of course, more architectural buildings that Europe is known for. And then we headed down past the marina area near the fort. And once we got to this area, we were dropped off as we were headed to lunch. We had lunch at this location, and we got to experience some of those wonderful heirloom tomatoes as part of our lunch. Back on the bus, we headed around Marseille along the waterfront area to see some more sights throughout the city. And then, of course, we had to head up to Notre Dame. And once we got there and managed to get up all the steps to the top of the Notre Dame, there is the cathedral, of course, at the top. Again, there was a lot of scaffolding and construction going on outside to preserve that location. We got a view of our ship. We headed back to the ship after that, got on board, and of course had to have some beverages and had to have some dinner to say goodbye to Marseille. As we sailed into the evening, beautiful evening, of course, to welcome the next day to Genoa. Here we have a tour that we're looking forward to as we boarded our bus to Portofino, Santa Margherita, and Genoa. So as we traveled to Portofino, or actually to Rapallo, where we were to catch our boat to take us out to Portofino. Rapallo is a very beautiful little city along the waterfront. We got out and walked along the waterfront with our tour to, of course, catch that boat. There was a open market down there during that time. Once we got on board our boat heading to Portofino, of course, the coastal views, the buildings, beautiful sights along the way. Can't say enough of all the different beautiful sights. Of course, there's many yachts to view along the way, along this coastline. Some hotels nestled up in the hills. And as we approached Portofino, it was a cute little fishing village is what it started out to be, but is now a very popular spot, nestled in the bay. We thought it was a very cute place to go to, would love to return there and spend a few days there. As we disembarked the boat and walked around, did a little shopping, saw the different sites in this little village, we decided that we were getting a bit thirsty. So we decided to sit down and find ourselves a spot to have a Aperol Spritz, of course. So we enjoyed that before getting back on the boat to head to Santa Margherita. So when we arrived at Santa Margherita, they gave us some free time to just walk around and look at the area, do some shopping, and meet back at the boat in about an hour or so. So we wandered around the city square, saw some beautiful sights there, little cafes and shops, and then headed back to the boat to board the boat and head back to Rapallo and get back on the bus to head back to Genoa. Once back on board and arriving back in Genoa, we were on the bus again, traveling around, seeing some sights. And then we stopped for lunch at this restaurant, and we were treated to a very nice meal here. The owner of the restaurant showed us how to make fresh pesto, which is from this restaurant is a world-renowned pesto, is what we're told. And he made it fresh for us. We had some pasta, some ravioli that was absolutely delicious with that pesto. We had some fish dish there and some dessert. Of course, we had wine at this restaurant. Highly recommend it if you get an opportunity to visit. Then we decided to walk around down a main downtown area, seeing some of the mosaic tiles, walkways, and then we headed over to the Ferrari fountain in the main square. After some great photos there, we said goodbye to Genoa and made our way in the morning to La Spezia. Here we were excited to go on a tour to the Tuscan countryside, do some wine tasting, and visit Pisa. Along our drive, we saw some mountains that appeared to have snow, but in fact they were Carrara marble quarries, which was very interesting. Upon arrival in Pisa, of course, we saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa, tried to hold it up like everyone does, was unsuccessful doing that. But there was a cathedral and a baptismal cathedral there. We viewed all those, got our Aperol Spritz in the afternoon, and back on the bus we headed to where Pinocchio was founded and do some wine tasting at this winery. As we arrived at the winery, we were treated to a little bit of information in the vineyard by the tour guide there. And then we sat down to a lunch and bottles of wine that were from the winery. There were 4 different types of wine. There was a red, there was a white, another white, and then there was a dessert wine. We had plenty of wine and our fill there. Once we got back on board the bus, you could tell that everyone else had had their fun fill of wine. After the fun-filled bus ride back and the evening, it was time to disembark the next day in Rome. We arrived into Civitavecchia to disembark and took our bus transfer into town where we were going to stay an additional day. So we headed to our hotel, checked in, got our welcome a drink, and then we decided we wanted to get some authentic pizza. So we went around the corner to this pizza place, had a deep-fried pizza and a regular pizza. Of course, had to have some wine to go with the pizza, and enjoyed that, and then headed out that afternoon to go on a specialized tour of the Colosseum. We got our guide and arrived at the Colosseum. What a beautiful event this was. Got an opportunity to not only hear about the Colosseum, but go inside on a tour and see all the different nooks and crannies of the Colosseum, and all the way to the bottom section where they were staging gladiators and different things for the entertainment in the Colosseum. This was a spectacular day. The weather was warm and hot, and so we headed out after our tour of the Colosseum to go get some local gelato. What a treat that was. And then that evening, to end our trip on, we had to have a boulevardier and some sparkling water. Headed to the airport in the morning to catch our flight home, and we hope you had a wonderful time traveling along with us on our visit. And until next time, cheers. Hope you enjoyed this.
Cruising for a boozing, we're shaking up fun. From the tiki bar to the pool deck, we're second to none.